This is Professor Asmi Privy from Department of Psychology, Aligarh University. Today I will be talking about the generalization of questionnaires. Generalization of a questionnaire refers to the extent to which the findings or conclusions from a survey can be applied to a larger group of people or population. Essentially, it involves making educated guesses about a larger population based on the responses obtained from a smaller sample. This process allows researchers to draw broader conclusions and make predictions about the characteristics or behaviors of a larger group based on the information gathered from a smaller subset or sample. By analyzing the data collected from a representative sample, researchers can gain insights into the attitudes, opinions, or behaviors of a larger population. However, it is important to note that generalizations are not always accurate or applicable to every individual within the larger group. The levels of generalization depends on various factors such as the representativeness of the sample, the research methodology employed, and the specific context of the study. Researchers often create questionnaires to gather information from a large group of people or population. In order for the questionnaire to be effective, the researchers carefully select a smaller group of individuals who share similar characteristics to the larger population. The goal is to find patterns or trends within this smaller group that can be applied to the entire population. So, by studying the responses of this representative sample, researchers can gain valuable insights into the larger population as a whole. This method allows them to make accurate predictions and draw meaningful conclusions about the target population. When interpreting the findings of a study, it is crucial to consider how well the sample represents the larger population and the randomness of its selection. The quality of the research design and methodology also influences the ability to make generalizations. If the sample does not accurately reflect the population, or if there are biases in the survey's administration, the ability to draw conclusions about the entire population may be compromised. Researchers typically disclose the characteristics of their sample and any limitations in the generalization, thus ensuring transparency in their study. In order to determine the generalizability of a questionnaire, several factors must be considered, and one of the important factors is the sample size, which refers to the number of individuals surveyed. Statistical power is an important factor in the research studies that is associated with the sample size. It refers to the ability of a study to detect smaller effects with confidence. Essentially, when researchers have larger sample sizes, they have more statistical power. This means that they are able to find smaller effects and be more confident in their results. Additionally, studies with larger sample sizes are seen as more representative of the entire population, allowing their findings to be applied to a greater number of people. In other words, having a larger sample size increases the reliability and precision and generalizability of the findings of the study. Another important aspect that is also associated with the sample size is precision. Having a larger sample size in any study is important for obtaining accurate results or precise results. When the sample size is larger, the findings are more likely to be applicable to the larger population. This means that the conclusions drawn from studies with larger samples can be generalized to a wider group of people. By including more participants in the study, researchers can minimize the impact of individual differences and increase the reliability of their findings. Therefore, it is important to prioritize larger sample sizes when conducting research to ensure the validity and generalizability of the results. Another important aspect that is also influencing the generalizability is heterogeneity or the diversity within a group of people being studied. This heterogeneity plays an important role in determining the applicability of findings to the larger population, and in order to accurately represent the various types of individuals within the population, it becomes necessary to have a larger sample size. This is particularly important when studying smaller groups or unique characteristics that are not commonly found. By including a more diverse range of participants, researchers can ensure that their conclusions are more representative and applicable to a wider range of people or population. Another important factor is sampling method, and in this, the first aspect is random sampling. Sampling methods are used to choose a representative sample from the larger population, and random sampling is a method that is used to ensure that the sample chosen represents the entire population. There are various types of random sampling methods such as simple random sampling, stratified sampling, and cluster sampling. These methods increase the likelihood of obtaining a sample that accurately reflects the entire population. Studies that utilize random sampling tend to have findings that are more applicable to the larger population compared to studies that use non-random sampling methods. Another aspect of sampling method is the convenience sampling. It is a method of selecting participants for a study based on their availability and accessibility. While it may be convenient and cost effective, there are limitations to its use. And one major drawback is that convenience sampling can lead to biased samples that do not accurately represent the entire population. This means that the findings from studies using convenience sampling may not be applicable to the larger population as a whole. Therefore, caution must be exercised when interpreting the results obtained from convenience sampling studies. It is important to consider alternative sampling methods that provide a more representative sample in order to draw accurate conclusions about the population being studied. Another aspect that is also related with sampling method is probability versus non-probability sampling. These are the two different methods used to select participants for a study. In probability sampling, every person in the group being studied has an equal chance of being chosen. This approach often leads to findings that can be applied to a larger population. On the other hand, non-probability sampling relies on personal judgment or convenience when selecting participants. While this method may be more convenient, it may not produce findings that can be generalized to a larger population. Another important aspect is the characteristics of the population. Population characteristics also play an important role in determining the applicability or generalizability of study findings to the larger population. Another important aspect of population characteristics is the diversity in the demographic variables. When a study includes individuals from diverse age groups, genders, and ethnic backgrounds, it becomes more relevant to a wider range of individuals compared to a study that focuses only on a specific group. So, by encompassing a variety of population characteristics or demographics, research outcomes can be better generalized and applied to different segments of the population. This ensures that the findings are not limited to a narrow subset of individuals or sample, but can be beneficial to the broader population. Another aspect, that is size and density of the population, also play an important role in the applicability of the findings of the study. When conducting research in a crowded city, the results may not necessarily be applicable to rural or less populated areas and vice versa. This is because the dynamics and characteristics of a closely populated area can differ greatly from those of sparsely populated regions. Therefore, it is important to consider the context and demographics of a population when interpreting and applying study findings. Another important aspect that is also related with the population characteristics is cultural and contextual factors. These factors play a significant role in how we interpret and utilize our research findings. These factors encompass cultural differences, social norms, and the specific context in which the research was conducted. Researchers must be mindful of these factors when analyzing and applying surveys or questionnaire results. By taking into consideration cultural norms, values, and contextual factors, researchers have an understanding of how their findings may or may not be applicable to diverse populations or settings. One example of the impact of cultural and contextual factors on research is the concept of individualism versus collectivism. In individualistic cultures, people tend to prioritize personal goals and achievements. In collectivistic cultures, the emphasis is on group harmony and cooperation. This difference in cultural values can influence how research findings are interpreted and applied. For instance, a study on motivation may find that individual rewards increase productivity in an individualistic culture, but in a collectivistic culture, group rewards may be more effective. Another important factor to consider is the influence of social norms. Social norms are the unwritten rules and expectations that guide behavior within a society. These norms can vary across different cultures and communities, and they can shape how individuals perceive and respond to research findings. For instance, a study on gender roles may find that women in a certain culture are expected to prioritize family over career. This social norm could impact how women in that culture interpret and apply the research findings. Additionally, the specific context in which research is conducted can also shape the interpretation and application of findings. Factors such as geographical location can also influence how research is understood and utilized. For example, a study conducted in an urban area may yield different findings than one conducted in a rural community due to variations in resources, access to services, and social dynamics. Furthermore, the historical and political context of a population can also shape their attitudes and beliefs, which in turn can influence their responses to questionnaires. For example, a society with a history of political oppression may be more hesitant to express their true opinions, leading to biased or inaccurate data. Researchers must be aware of these historical and social dynamics to accurately interpret and apply their findings. So, acknowledging and addressing cultural and contextual factors is paramount in effectively applying the findings of the research. When designing a questionnaire, it is crucial to consider how the responses from a smaller group can accurately represent a larger population. To achieve this, there are several key factors or considerations to keep in mind. And the first consideration is to define the population that the findings will apply to. Clearly identifying and describing the specific group of people will ensure that conclusions drawn are relevant and applicable. It is crucial to use random sampling techniques because these techniques ensure that every person in the population being studied has an equal chance of being included in the sample. This is important because it allows us to create a sample that accurately represents the larger population. By doing so, we can make conclusions about the entire population based on our findings from the sample. In addition to random sampling, the size of the sample is another important factor to consider. It is essential to ensure that the sample size is appropriate for the level of precision and confidence desired in the results. Generally, a larger sample size will provide more reliable results and make it easier to apply the findings to the entire population. Therefore, choosing the right sample size is crucial in obtaining accurate and meaningful results. Another key consideration is stratified sampling, which involves dividing the population into different groups or strata and randomly selecting samples from each group. This ensures that individuals from all diverse backgrounds are included in the sample, providing a comprehensive representation of the entire population. Furthermore, when creating a sample, it is vital to consider the size and composition of the population. A larger population may require a larger sample size to accurately represent its diversity. Additionally, if the population consists of distinct subgroups such as age or gender, it is important to include proportional representation from each subgroup in the sample. This allows for a more accurate analysis of the population as a whole. Additionally, having a reliable and comprehensive sampling frame is also essential. A sampling frame is a list of all the units or all the people in the population that we will be drawing our sample from. A sampling frame is a list of all the people or units of the population. It is crucial for this list to be well defined and complete so that we can accurately select our sample. Without a proper sampling frame, our sample may not truly represent the population, leading to biased results and inaccurate conclusions. Another important factor to consider is to randomize question order. When designing a survey, it is important to ensure that the questions are unbiased, and one effective method to achieve this is by randomizing the order of the questions. By doing so, any potential impact of question order is evenly distributed among the survey participants. In order to avoid bias, it is important to use clear and inclusive language when creating a survey. This means using words and phrases that can be easily understood by all participants regardless of their background or level of knowledge. It is advisable not to use jargons or terminology that may confuse certain segments of the surveyed population. Furthermore, it is also important to consider the length of a survey. A lengthy survey or questionnaire can lead to participant fatigue and decreased response quality. To combat this, surveys or questionnaires should be concise and focused, ensuring that each question serves a specific purpose and contributes to the overall objective of the survey. Another aspect to keep in mind when designing a survey or questionnaire is the importance of offering response options that cover a wide range of possibilities. By providing diverse response choices, survey creators can capture a more accurate representation of opinions and experiences of participants. Another important aspect is to consider the privacy and confidentiality of survey respondents. Participants should feel confident that their respon- Participants should feel confident that their responses will remain anonymous and their personal information will not be shared without their consent. This fosters trust and encourages honest and open participation. Pilot testing is an important step before distributing a questionnaire to the larger population. By testing it out on a small group first, we can identify any potential issues or problems with the way questions are asked, answer choices, or the questionnaires' overall structure. This ensures that the questionnaire is effective and reliable when administered to a wider audience. Non response bias is a critical factor to consider when conducting research. It refers to the possibility that certain groups within a study may be less likely to respond, which can impact the generalizability of the findings to the larger population. To ensure accurate results, it is essential to actively seek participation from all segments of the population. By including diverse groups in the study, researchers can minimize the potential for non response bias and increase the applicability of their findings. This consideration is crucial for obtaining reliable and representative data that can confirm decision making processes. Another aspect is transparent reporting, and in order to provide transparent reporting, it is crucial to clearly state who was included in our study. This involves sharing information about the participants' demographics, such as age, gender, and other relevant details. By doing so, readers can assess the applicability of the findings to the broader population. Transparency allows for a more accurate interpretation of the results and promotes trustworthiness in our research. Now I will discuss ethics in questionnaire. Ethics play a crucial role in the use of questionnaires for conducting surveys. To maintain confidentiality, it is essential to adhere to ethical guidelines that protect respondents' personal information such as their name and address. Moreover, cultural sensitivity should be taken into account when formulating research questions to ensure inclusivity and avoid any potential bias. When involving underage children in surveys, it is imperative to obtain permission from their parents or guardians before collecting any data. This step ensures that the child's well being and privacy are safeguarded throughout the survey process. Additionally, participants should be made aware that their participation is voluntary and they have the right to withdraw from the survey at any point if they feel uncomfortable or unwilling to continue. Respecting ethical considerations in questionnaire based surveys not only upholds the integrity of the research but also demonstrates a commitment to protecting the rights and well being of the participants. So, by maintaining confidentiality and obtaining proper consent, researchers can create an environment of trust and respect, fostering more accurate and reliable responses from the participants. This is all for today.